My name is Rotem Ishai and welcome to the presentation of the first assignment in my research inquiry as part of KIN 596. During this presentation, I will present the following: research topic and rationale, the primary research question and discuss possible research sub-questions, the impact of this proposed research, the alignment of this research within my coaching practice, a review of related research literature and summary of 4 selected research articles, the overall proposed methods, and final notes. Olympic format cross-country mountain bike events, abbreviated XCO, are mass start endurance cycling competitions consisting of highly dynamic and varied gradients, course track width, and riding terrain. XCO format is regulated under the UCI World Governing Body and consists of racing multiple 3.5 to 6 kilometer distance laps for a total of 60 to 100 minutes, which is varied based on age and gender race category. XCO race courses consist of a start lap, followed by multiple laps of the regular race lap. Start positions on the tightly packed start grid are predetermined by current ranking points and a few other regulations. The start lap is characterized by a wider racetrack and lesser technical terrain, which could be a modified version of the regular race lap or a separate dedicated start lap. The start lap aims to spread out the racer's field from the mass start before arriving at tighter and more technical sections of the race course. Even though World Cup race field size was regulated a few years back, we can still see large race fields of around 100 racers in a single mass start race. With that said, the traffic bottleneck phenomenon is inevitable, especially at early stages of the race where racers' traffic is highly congested. The traffic bottleneck phenomenon allows racers at the front of the race to perform rather unobstructed at their maximal capacity, while racers behind are forced to perform at lower capacity due to early race congested traffic and limited passing opportunities. Considering the mass start traffic and the XCO racetrack characteristics, this race format requires racers to greatly fluctuate their power production and speed consistently throughout the race. In literature and sports professionals, the pacing of XCO is generally divided into 3 parts. The first part is early race performance, which that performance early in the race and positioning in XCO is known to be a crucial factor for overall race performance. Yet there are no constructed guidelines recommending optimal ranges of any specific factors or performance indicators associated specifically with early race position. Such maximal pacing early on and the battle for positioning forces a pace that is not sustainable for the whole race duration. Then we have the middle race pacing, which is once the race traffic is a bit more open. Middle race pacing is mainly driven by the individual well-paced intensity to maintain lap times at perceived effort threshold with minimal variation of lap times ideally. And lastly, we have the late race pacing, which is mainly managed by the reserves of energy, fatigue resistance, capacity, and also tactical racing in case a racer is approaching the late portion of the race nearby other racers. This all leads me to the following overall primary research question. What is the relationship between start positions, pacing performance indexes, and finish positions in XCO World Cup events? Start position is the athlete's call-up order number to the start grid. Finish position is the athlete's race result, as in the position they cross the finish line. Pacing performance indexes are pacing matrix I've generated after reviewing XCO race pacing literature and highlighting 3 seemingly important factors: early race performance, middle race performance, and late race performance. Early and late race performances will be evaluated by positions gained or lost, as well as percent time behind leader, while middle race performance will be evaluated by percent time behind leader, as well as the variability of their middle race lap times. At this point in time, I have many possible research sub-questions, and it's obvious that I need to narrow down the research scope. There are multiple directions I can direct this research and narrow down the scope. Some of those include understanding the importance of start position and creating meaningful start position benchmarks, understanding pacing of racers who are able to overcome a bad start position and move up in their final rankings, understanding longitudinal development of pacing trends of top performers, possibly predicting an individual's race result from known start position and recent performances. How do different race venues and race conditions affect pacing? Understanding start positions and pacing needed to accomplish a variety of World Cup performance benchmarks, such as finishing the whole distance, finishing within the ranking points, podium positions, and winning. And understanding the variation in answers to all those questions for different age and sex race categories. The impact of my proposed research could be threefold. To start with, this can provide an understanding of the optimal pacing performance indexes in consideration of the individual start position, and pacing performance indexes can help an athletes perform better and also inform the coaches regarding appropriate training methods and racing strategies. Another point would be an understanding of the individual racers' predicted start position, and recent pacing performance indexes can possibly lead to more reliable predictions of their finish positions. Such predictions can allow more informed decisions by athletes, coaches, teams, and also national governing bodies regarding setting race goals and qualification criteria for world-class races such as World Cups, Continental, and World Championships. Another point would be a longitudinal understanding of top performance trends in start position and pacing performance indexes throughout their careers. This may provide meaningful insights and possibly benchmarks for long-term athlete development in XCO. With my roles as a personal coach and performance manager to XCO athletes and teams, this topic area of research aligns me to utilize a more practical and evidence-based approach to coach my XCO athletes, specifically to support their XCO-specific development, which is often challenged by the competitive gap between domestic and international World Cup racing levels. To suggest objective measures to support decision-making by athletes, coaches, teams, and national governing bodies regarding selection, participation, goal setting at world-class competitions. For literature review, I've covered 12 research articles in 4 different categories: performance prediction in XCO, physiological demands in XCO racing and phenotyping of XCO athletes, pacing in XCO racing, and the relationship of start and finish positions in XCO. I will review a few selected research articles in my next slides. The first article I'll summarize, conducted by Karma et al., relates to race pacing in XCO. This research examined the pacing of XCO racers during the 2015 season in World Cups and World Championships from speed and lap times perspectives. Fast start pacing was observed in all races and all race categories. High performers were able to execute a relatively faster last lap compared to lower performers. Under 23 females performed a relatively faster first lap and a slower last lap compared to elite women. This research did have a strength of analyzing multiple races within a single season, but it did not consider the start position and its impact on pacing and finish positions, and it also did not review race data across multiple years, so a longitudinal analysis was not available. The second selected study by Grenier et al. Is a novel study in my opinion because of its subject pool and methodology. This study examined pacing and power outputs of 8 mountain bikers of the French Olympic cycling team during 2 racing seasons, of which France has been consistently the first or second leading country in XCO, so it's obvious that this small subject pool consists of some of the best XCO racers in the world at that time. The study included laboratory testing that allowed personalized phenotyping of top XCO racers, as well as analyzing pacing from individual power zones of top performers, which provides very comprehensive overview. Fast start pacing was observed here as well, but it was much more insightful to analyze from a power output perspective and not just speed or lap times in most of other studies. Power variability was highest in the start lap and became more stable by third lap, where it maintained throughout the last lap. Time spent in anaerobic power outputs was highest in the start lap and progressively decreased throughout the race. Even though power output and power variability decreased from lap to lap, the actual lap times were maintained relatively similar due to being able to choose their optimal race lines, avoiding braking accelerations due to early race traffic. The third study here by McDermott and Morton is probably the closest in methodology to my proposed research. This study examined the relationship between the start and finish position of XCO World Cup's elite races between 1997 and 2007. The main conclusions were that there is a significant positive correlation between start position and finish position, and that more than half of male and female racers changed less than 15 and 10 positions during a race, respectively. This study evidently supports the common knowledge of XCO sport professionals that one needs a good start position in order to have a greater chance at finishing well. This study is outdated, and since then the XCO race format changed with shorter race durations, shorter race laps, and far more technical terrain, which in my opinion will only come to emphasize the correlation in start and finish positions. Additionally, the study did not examine for any pacing trends within the races. It did not examine for top performers' development trends. It did not include the under 23 age category, and a more comprehensive approach could be applied for future research design. Lastly, a fourth and more recent study by Viagrio was done in 2021, examining the relationship between the start position at the end of lap 1, and finish position. It concluded that most of the race positions variations take place early in the race during the start lap and first lap, and that after first lap, the race positions are rather stable, unchanged much. Similar to the previous study, this research also showed a strong correlation between start position and final position. This study allowed for another layer of interpretation using another data point within the race, which was the position at the end of lap 1, thus giving some insight into pacing, which created evidence to the known knowledge with XCO sport professionals that a fast start pacing is important. The study methodology consisted of only Portuguese male racers in only 5 races in Portugal. Therefore, we cannot apply the same conclusions directly to a much larger race fields in international World Cup racing across 4 different age and sex categories. Hopefully, the background rationale and selected literature summaries are insightful to understanding my research topic. My research question, which will examine the relationship between start position, in-race pacing metrics, and finish position in XCO racing, will be most comprehensively answered by extensive data mining that will include all 4 different age and sex race categories and include all World Cup events from 2017 to 2023. My suggested methodology of integrating meaningful pacing performance indexes, as I mentioned with the early, middle, and late race pacing performance indexes, that are loosely observed and or utilized in research literature and sport professionals in recent years, are assumed to provide more meaningful insights into possible trends and relationships when analyzing for the development trends of top performers, or for an example, analyzing for performance benchmarks that could provide evidence for decision making for athletes, coaches, and national governing bodies. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I look forward to reading your feedback. Thank you so much.